Let's do this. We're going to rank every single weapon based on our experience so far in Monster Hunter Rise. Okay, let me just turn on a light. All right. Based on my experience so far, and I have done like preview videos for every single weapon. And I'm ranking them in order of my personal preference of the weapon, as well as like what I've seen in the weapon in terms of its evolution. Okay? So, I guess we'll start with like Bowgun. The light Bowgun. I'm gonna give it a B. Wait, how do I do this? Do I not just drag it? Okay, here we go. I'm gonna give it a B. I liked the movesets. I liked its moveset. I think it's a really fun moveset, but it hasn't really, like the stuff that we have in Rise hasn't really like significantly changed the weapon, in my opinion. So, you know, it hasn't really had that big wow effect on me. So we're gonna give it a B. It's not terrible. It's not great. Now let's go to... Might as well get rid of all of the ranged weapons because that's the stuff that I care about the least. I'm gonna give the heavy bowgun a C. And here's the thing. I like the changes that they've done to the heavy bowgun, right? I like that they gave her charging shots because it gives her a different identity from the light bowgun, but that actually makes me like the weapon less. So like, I like the changes that they did. I like the direction that they're going, but it makes me not want to play the weapon due to the fact like charging shots is just like, it's not really my thing, right? And on top of it, I think that the other silkbind move that it has, like I love the counter shot. The counter shot on the heavy bowgun is a lot of fun. That's like my favorite thing of the heavy bowgun is the counter shot, but it uses up 2 wire bugs. 2 wire bugs. That's a lot. That's a lot for a counter shot. But that's pretty much the only thing I really liked about the heavy bowgun. So, let's go for something else. Bow. Yeah, I didn't like the bow much. I'm even considering putting the bow on D. I liked it so little. But a big portion of why I didn't like the bow is also because of my arc shot problem. There's no doubt in my mind that that is influencing me a lot. But I didn't like the bow. I didn't like the bow, but I think that it might change when we have access to more bows. Because it's just like, I don't know, there's something about it. It doesn't flow as well for me as the bow in World. Like the bow in World, I could feel like this flow going into it as someone that doesn't even play ranged weapons that much. But yeah, the bow definitely gets shafted here. So let me see, what's next? I'm trying to start with like the weapons that I didn't really gel with all that much. I think I'd definitely put Greatsword in B. I really enjoyed playing Greatsword. I thought the Greatsword was a lot of fun, but I didn't like that somersault move that it got. And it's just I don't tend to play Greatsword all that much to begin with. So that somersault move that it got was like, But I did enjoy playing it, so, you know, it still gets a B over there. Charge Blade, in the demo, gets a C. It's very important to stress out that it's specifically in this demo. Why? It has exactly the same moveset it had in World, with one exception. No Savage Axe Slash. No Savage... So basically you just lost Savage Axe Slash in the demo. Again, I don't know what it's going to be like in the final game. I don't know what the change is going to be. And on top of it, the Silkbind move, the Morphing Advance or whatever, like that thing just straight up did not work for me. It just did not work for me at all. So I was like, whatever. Now, we're starting to get to weapons that I'm more interested in. Dual blades, I would actually get an A. Even though I'm not super interested in dual blades, but the simple fact that Archdemon mode actually feels like Archdemon mode as opposed to Imp mode or Limp mode, like I mentioned in my video. Like, Archdemon mode in World is terrible, dude. Archdemon mode in World is like getting punished, just straight up punished. It's like, you're running low on stamina, so I'm going to slap you across the face. Like, but I didn't do anything wrong. Shut up! Slapped in the mouth, like straight up across the mouth. That's what it feels like in World. Whereas in here, Archdemon mode actually has some interesting moves with X and A, as well as just like even your dashes and stuff. They're a little bit faster. And Demon mode is so fast. You move so fast in Demon mode. Like, way faster than you moved in World. It has to be faster than you moved in World. So, they've done some really cool stuff to dual blades. And the silkbind arts of dual blades are also very satisfying. You get the counter, which allows you to go through roars, go through attacks, go through everything. Feels fantastic. And then you also get that explosive kunai thing, which brings you back Wolf's Maw. I mean, not actual Wolf's Maw, but gives you a little bit of taste from Wolf's Maw from GU. So that felt great. So I'm giving that an A, straight up. Okay, so I hate this weapon. I hate it. I hate it with a tremendous passion. I hate it. I hate it so much, and I have to put it in S tier. And I hate the goddamn, I hate it. I don't like Longsword. I really don't. But it's just like, there's no denying that the weapon is just so incredibly powerful. And it is probably incredibly fun to use for people that like it. Like, there's just no denying it. It's just a fantastic friggin' weapon. Because, like, look, it's all benefits. Like, your EI slash no longer gives you penalties. As a matter of fact, it's the other way around. If you land the EI slash, basically you upgrade the level of your spirit gauge. If you don't land it, no harm, no foul, no problem whatsoever. So that's one counter right there. You still have Foresight Slash, which is still tremendously generous. It's fantastic. On top of it, you get a new counter, which deals more damage depending on how much you have on your spirit gauge or whatever. So it's like friggin' beast mode. So, I mean, how can I not, right? Like, how can I not give it an S tier? Like, at that point, it would just be straight up my bias, bringing it down one notch. Like, Longsword is just too good for me not to consider it S tier. Like, you know? It's just that simple. It's just literally that simple. So, hey, it is what it is. The Lance. Yeah, let's go for the Lance. A little bit indecisive with the Lance, but it's going to go to B. And it's going to go to B because I really like the fact that they're trying to do something interesting with the Lance, with the charge slap. But at the same time, that charge sweep is a bit of a problem because it kind of interferes with the natural flow of the weapon, because the weapon already has this established flow of like poke, 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 do something else, poke, 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 do something else. And the charge sweep, when you introduce it in the middle of that combo, it kind of like, it really changes the weapon. And in a lot of ways, I kind of like it, but in a lot of ways, it also brings me down. You know, so I'm a little bit conflicted with it. There's also the fact that the charge sweep, like a lot of the times you'll end up hitting something that you don't want. So sure, you deal more damage, but you're moving away from what makes the Lance so special for me, which is the ability to consistently hit something. Like, a lot of people don't pay attention to the Lance, but the Lance is one of the most precise weapons in the game. Because, like, if you know what you're doing with the Lance, like, I'm talking like old Lance, right? If you know what you're doing with the Lance, you're like, I want to punish that face. You're going to go into the face and like, slap, 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 just straight up poke that face, poke that face, poke that face. And when you introduce the sweep, which deals more damage, and you want to deal more damage, but you're not going to be able to consistently land that sweep in the monster's face, that kind of like takes a little bit away from the weapon. In a way, it gives it something, it gives it a new tool, but in another way, it takes something away as well by, you know, you not being able to be as consistent with the damage as you were before. Feel free to disagree with me. That's the way that I feel about the weapon. Having said that, though, the silkbind counter that it got, Adapt Guard or whatever it's called, I forget the name of it, amazing. I love it. I love the guard on the lance. It's friggin' fantastic. I love it. I couldn't have asked for a better silkbind skill. The other skill, though, Twin Vines, I didn't really like it all that much. So a charged poke would have been a million times better. A charged poke would have been a million, because you'd be able to still do something special, right, by charging that poke. And at the same time, it would still be consistent, landing exactly where you want it to be. Because that's the thing that I like about the lance. Like, right? It's the consistency. It's the ability to stay on the monster's face at all times. But also just like, you can be so technical with just like, no, I'm just going to hit that face. Now I'm going to go hit that tail. Now I'm going to go hit that leg. And the sweep introduces a little bit of chaos to it that I don't like. But it is cool. It is cool. Anchor guard's fantastic. Yeah, dude, the guard on the lance is just like top notch. Top notch. That guard is amazing. I love it. Okay. Switch axe is S tier. I mean, it's one of the most impressive reworks. Like, it is the weapon that I'm most impressed with in the demo, hands down. I'm super impressed with what they did for the switch axe. Files carrying over to axe is just a natural transition. The axe thing now powering up your sword charging faster, the sword charging being more meaningful, but at the same time giving you something for taking longer. Because, like, sure, you can say that in World, dude, I can charge my sword in like 3 swings. You know, like in this game, it takes like 10 years. Yeah, the difference is in World, you charge your sword in 3 swings. Then you go to do a zero-sum discharge, and the monster just slaps you across the face 3 times, and there's nothing you can do about it. Whereas in here, when you go do a zero-sum discharge, you actually do a zero-sum discharge, and the monster has no say in it. And I think that is very important. That is very important, that they're actually making it so that you can actually do that stuff. And it becomes a choice. Do I want to be in sword mode right now? Do I want to be in axe mode right now? And it doesn't feel like you're getting penalized for, you know, going to one or the other. Whereas in World, it's like, you want to be in sword mode, okay? You're doing axe until you get the sword, right? It's like your sword gauge is down, so you're doing axe. Like, most of the time it was like that. Well, in Iceborne, a little bit less, because you had the part break and flinching and all that stuff going on. But, like, you know, I think it's just S tier, straight up. Not and the silkbind moves that it got also, like friggin' rock steady move that yeets you at the monster, friggin' fantastic. And the other move that also like makes your sword gauge just like charge up and whatnot, really, really good. Really, really good. I really like what they did with the weapon. Friggin' fantastic. Hunting Horn, S tier. I mean, I think that the changes to Hunting Horn are amazing. I know that there's a lot of Hunting Horn mains out there that are disappointed, and I want to make sure that I'm not ignoring you guys, because I feel like a lot of people, like in the last Third Fleet podcast that I did with Gaijin, a lot of people were really upset when we were talking about the Hunting Horn, because both of us really like the changes to Hunting Horn, because they've been Hunting Horn mains for a long time, and they have like different ideas of what they like about the weapon. What I'm saying is, before you really judge the weapon, wait for the final game. Because there's a lot of things that, you know, they're going to change about the weapons. There's new silkbind moves. Who knows if the things that you like about the Hunting Horn aren't going to be present in the final game. So, you know, that's all I'm saying. But I do think that the new changes to the Hunting Horn are friggin' amazing. A lot of people are saying that it's overpowered. I don't necessarily agree, because the Hunting Horn is the only weapon that is getting buffs in the demo, whereas you can't really get buffs on the other weapons unless there's a Hunting Horn member in your party, because, you know, if you could get something like Mega Demon Drug and stuff like that, then you would see different numbers on the other weapons as well. Not to mention that Hunting Horn is also a weapon that benefits from raw damage, and in the demo we do not have elemental damage, so there's a lot of stuff there. There's a lot of stuff there. So, straight up. Insect Glaive. Where am I going to put the Glaive? I'm going to put the Glaive on B. I'm going to put the Glaive on B despite the fact that I think Glaive is a great weapon. It hasn't really changed that much from World. They gave you the crappiest Kinsect known to man. I don't know why they keep doing this. It also looks like from the Hunter's Notes that you'll have to choose between Kinsects that leave dust and Kinsects that auto-attack. Maybe that's poorly worded, but it definitely seems like the Kinsects might also suffer a downgrade. But again, we'll have to wait for the final game to see. But what we have in the demo for the Insect Glaive, as a matter of fact, because of the Kinsect, you know what? I'm going to take it down another notch. It's going to go down to C. Like, again, it's based on the demo, and the Kinsect on the demo, dude, that Kinsect, screw it. I love the Silkbind art, like we were just talking about in the stream earlier. Like, friggin' Recall Kinsect is amazing. Love it. Outstanding. But, like, I can't stand how slow the Kinsect is, and the weapon itself hasn't changed that much, and on top of it, they take away one of the moves that supposedly is coming back as a Silkbind move, which is that downward thrust thing. They take that away, and it's going to become a Silkbind move. There's a lot of downgrades here. So we'll have to wait for the final game to see where it stands, but right now on the demo, I'd put it on a C. Straight up. I just straight up put her on a C. Now, it's interesting how I always tend to leave these three for last because I really like these three weapons. These three weapons are amazing. Okay, so Hammer gets an A. Hammer gets an A because I love Impact Crater, but I am a little bit confused about Hammer stances. I'm not exactly sure how that stuff's going to work out, and I'm not sure how it's going to pan out. Not to mention that, you know what would have brought Hammer up to an S? You know what would have brought it up to an S? If stickies had been deleted from the game. Just saying it like it is, the so-called KO King is actually not the KO King. The real KO King are these two bad boys right here. They're the real KO Kings, okay? So until Capcom addresses this little problem, like the Hammer is never going to reach S tier for me. Like, I love the weapon. It's one of my favorite weapons, one of the most fun weapons to play, but it is straight up not the KO King. And it is supposed to be known as the KO King, and it's not. And so I'm going to have to take it down a couple of notches. Having said that, though, in the demo, the reason why it still gets the A spot, which is a really good spot, right? In the demo, the Hammer is the only weapon that retains its sliding attack. No other weapon has a sliding attack. And I've seen people, like in my comment section, they still have sliding attacks, just press B. No, that's a jumping attack. It's a different thing. Sliding attacks had their own animations. And it kind of sucks that Hammer's the only one who got it back because I loved sliding attacks, at least on the Charge Blade and on the Sword and Shield. I loved the sliding attacks on those weapons. They were fantastic. So them being lost is a big, big shame. But hey, it's got its Silkbind attacks. It's got the Silkbind attacks are fantastic. So you got the Spinning Bludgeon. And at the same time, you got Impact Crater, which is hands down one of my favorite attacks in the whole game right now. Impact Crater is amazing. And, you know, it's got the new mechanics with the stances, even though I don't exactly know the entirety of how that's going to pan out in the final game. It's fun, and it's more interesting than just like every time you draw your hammer, charge it, you know? That way, there's an actual decision being made there. Do I want to be in yellow? Do I want to be in blue? What do I want to be working on right now, right? So that's cool. That's a lot of really cool stuff that happened for the Hammer, so it's an easy A. Easy A. Sword and Shield. Sword and Shield. Sword and Shield is going to go A. The reason it's going to go A is because there's one thing that I still don't know. I mean, there's a couple more reasons, but there's specifically one thing that I still don't know. And that one thing is, do shields deal elemental damage now? Like, that's going to be a big thing for me. Because, like, in World, shields didn't deal elemental damage. And it was very frustrating. I don't like the fact that shields didn't deal elemental damage in World. And I believe that in previous games, we've had shields dealing elemental damage. So I expect to see that remedied in Rise, but we'll see if that is the case or not. If we had elemental damage in the demo, Sword and Shield might have gotten an S, but I don't know. Shield deals KO? Yeah, Shield still deals KO. But it's like, overall, I really like the kit that Sword and Shield has received. Like, it's got the windmill attack, which is kind of like a different version of Round Force, which is already something that we had in GU, because it also gives you a couple of invincibility frames when you perform that particular attack, which is really cool, because it lets you use that offensively. Feels great. You also have that new thing, which is the Falling Bash. Now, Falling Bash is not as impressive as I would like, but it does grant you access to Helmbreaker, which is pretty cool. Your Perfect Rush now also ends in a leaping attack from the monster that allows you to do Helmbreaker as well, or do the Shield Bash thing. So that's pretty nice. So there's a lot to like about Sword and Shield, but it still retains its problems in terms of reach. There's a new move called Spinning Reaper, which is pretty cool. I really like that move. I think it's a lot of fun to use. So there's a lot of things going for it, but there are still things that kind of bother me about it, particularly its reach problems, the fact that I don't know if the shield's going to have elemental damage, and there's a couple more things here and there. We'll have to see, because like I also don't like how short the leap is from Perfect Rush, which actually feels really bad, because like in World, you would actually leap a significant amount forwards after doing the Perfect Rush thing, the first attack of the Perfect Rush, and in this game, that jump is nerfed to like less than half. If it's not less than half, it can't be too far off. But like the Perfect Rush jump is a lot less. So yeah. I don't think the Turning Slash is a big deal, because that's the Spinning Reaper move. It's the new move. It's not just intended to just be a Turning Slash, so I don't have that big of an issue with it. But then again, I've never been one that cares that much about the infinite combo, because I always liked using shield bashes in the middle of my combos, which I know is not the most efficient way of going about it, but I still liked it, so yeah. And finally, the Gunlance is D. It sucks, okay, guys? Okay, it's terrible. It sucks. Like, I'm sorry. It's atrocious. Like, nobody should play this weapon. And yeah, sorry, Capcom, you messed up, okay? The Gunlance is just, it's terrible. It's completely... literally unplayable, okay? Just forget about it. Oh, you can't drag it back out again, huh? Okay, anyways, Gunlance is B. If I'm going to be completely honest, Gunlance is B. The reasoning Gunlance is B, there's a lot of reasons behind it, and you have to understand, like, I still love the Gunlance. Most likely I will still main the Gunlance, but here's why I'm ranking it a B as opposed to ranking it any higher. Number one, shells still don't scale with attack up. There is a problem there, as far as I'm concerned. There's a problem in terms of scaling, which is a problem that the Gunlance has always had. It always has problems with the scaling of shells. It's like, sure, you can say, oh, it scales with artillery. Yeah, but once you get 3 artillery, then you just, at least in World, because, you know, it depends on the game, because there's artillery expert in the other games. We don't know what the skill system is going to be on this one. But like, once you get the max artillery, you're kind of screwed. Like, that's it. Your damage is capped out. And the other thing is, like, this also means most likely we'll have the return of shelling levels, which usually what tends to happen is you end up with a weapon tree where 80% of the weapons are useless. I mean, sure, you can craft them, you can play with them if you want, but they're not going to be good because you're not going to have maximum shelling level. They're probably not going to be able to compensate for it with their raw damage, which becomes a problem. The other thing is, what movesets are we going to have for wide shelling and long shelling? Is it going to be the same thing as in World? Because that's going to kind of suck. If you're going to end up with wide shelling, you're going to do poke, shell, poke. It's like, well, what about my slam? I like doing slams. It's like, well, play normal. Well, what if I want to play wide and do slams? Nope, screw you. Same thing for long. So it's like, you know, you still see a lot of the old weaknesses of the Gunlance making a comeback. So, you know, it is what it is. And it's like, when you take a look at it, files for the Charge Blade, which now share a lot more in common with shells, still scale with attack up. Stickies scale with attack up. Why can't Gunlance shell scale with attack up? Which probably also means that shells will not scale with raw either, which is extremely disappointing. So how does it land in B? Because that does sound like a lot lower. Well, because it has a really, really good silkbind move. Actually, it has two really, really good silkbind moves. The counter move is amazing. It's really, really good. It lets you just stay on the offensive the whole time, and you can counter into like slam to full burst. You can counter into a fast wyvern stake, which is faster than normal. But then you also have the thing where regular wyvern stakes, like the ones that come from your regular combos, suck. They're actually slower than in World. Like the application of the worm stake is actually slower than it used to be in World, which is just ridiculous as far as I'm concerned. So it's like, unless you do it from a charged shell or from the counter, then it's faster, which is good. But, you know, there's still that thing to it. Like, a lot of times you'll end up missing your worm stick if you're just doing it like after a full burst combo or after the sweep, or just, you know, moves that will get you to the worm stick. So there's still a lot of big problems with the weapon. But at the same time, you know, you get block when you're doing wyvern fire. So that's cool, right? So, you know, you have a lot of good things and you have a lot of bad things. And that's why it kind of lands right in the middle. I don't think that any weapon is completely busted to end up in D from what I've played in the demo. And do keep in mind, there's a huge amount of bias in my selection of these weapons. But yeah, that's how I would rate the weapons in Monster Hunter Rise.